Welcome to Tiny Storytime YT channel. Daily updates of completed satisfying stories. Don't forget to subscribe. In middle age, James Shun moved in with his female student. He asked me for a divorce, saying he would rather leave with nothing than see my ugly old face again. On the way to the Civil Affairs Bureau, I was hit by a car and fell into a coma. I overheard a conversation between Emily and him. Dad, if Mom doesn't wake up this time, will you marry Aunt Bianca? After all, she's my biological mother. I've always dreamed of our family of three reuniting. James said quietly, after your mom's funeral, I'll plan the wedding with Aunt Bianca. When I opened my eyes again, I found myself back in the late 1980s. It was the year James and I had just gotten married, the year we adopted a daughter, the year the girl James deeply loved was admitted to a prestigious university and went to study in Washington, D.C. This time, everything started over from the beginning, and I had the chance to correct it all. A baby's cry pulled me back to reality. I looked around in confusion. It was a small room. Red double happiness characters were pasted on the wall, and a wedding photo hung beside it. Beneath the photo was a line of text, wishing James Shun and Anna Spring eternal happiness and unity. Behind the door hung an old calendar. It was turned to August 21st, 1988. Just then, the door opened, and James walked in holding a fish. He looked to be in his 20s, refined and handsome. He spoke briskly. The baby's been crying outside. What's going on? He walked over quickly and added, why are you daydreaming? Hurry up and make formula for Yvette. In 1988, a month before the college entrance exam, I found an abandoned baby at my doorstep. I looked at the baby in my arms with disdain, placed her on the bed, and picked up a rag to meticulously clean my hands. In my past life, I had cared for this adopted daughter, Yvette, as if she were my own flesh and blood, but now I felt no love for her. Looking up, I saw James crouching to clean the fish and wash vegetables. He casually instructed, this afternoon, 3 of my students are coming over for dinner. They're this year's top graduates, all admitted to prestigious universities. Make a few good dishes for them. I stayed silent. James paused, confused. Aren't you curious who they are? I sneered. I had forgotten the names of the other 2 students, but one of them I remembered all too well, Bianca White. Dinner began at 5 p.m. The teacher and students chatted happily, discussing the college entrance exam and their bright futures. I couldn't get a word in and didn't feel like trying. Bianca sat directly across from me. She was 3 years younger than me, delicate and pure-looking. She wore an oversized, old-school uniform that hid her figure, and her complexion didn't look good. She kept her head down, eating quietly, occasionally glancing at the baby. In my past life, James had once casually mentioned that Bianca caught an infectious disease. To ensure the health of her classmates, she spent the last 2 months before the college entrance exam studying at home. James occasionally visited to tutor her. At the time, I thought nothing of it. Such things were normal. But looking back now, I suspect he was worried someone might notice her growing belly. Let's celebrate. James poured wine for the 2 male students and kindly poured a cup of hot sugar water for Bianca. First, congratulations on getting into prestigious universities. You'll always be my pride. Second, I wish you success and smooth sailing in the future. Then he took out 3 envelopes and handed them to his students, saying warmly, living expenses in Washington, D. can be costly. This is a little help from me and your teacher's wife. The students were moved to tears, repeatedly refusing the envelopes. But James insisted until they finally accepted. Each envelope contained $100. No more, no less. Yet, earlier, while cooking, I had seen James secretly tuck a thick wad of cash into Bianca's bag when no one was looking. He had used all his savings to support Bianca's education. In my past life, Bianca graduated and got a good job, married into a wealthy family, and lived a happy life. But later, her husband lost everything to stock speculation and gambling, eventually jumping off a building. Their son killed someone while driving drunk. She was left with a mountain of debt and had no choice but to return to her hometown to repay it. It was then that she reconnected with James. Their love rekindled like a drought finding rain. By then, James was a school principal with money in his hands. He generously paid off all of Bianca's debts. I was furious. We fought endlessly. I called Bianca shameless, and she sneered back. Sister, you should get some plastic surgery. Stop scaring people. The scar on my face was from when Yvette was 4. She had been jumping on the bed and almost fell onto a scalding hot stove. I rushed to push her away but lost my footing and fell. My face landed on the glowing hot coil. I could still hear the sizzling of my burning flesh and feel the searing pain. My face was disfigured. After that, James rarely touched me. Once, he got drunk and came to me. Seeing my face, he threw up. I pretended not to understand, convincing myself he was just drunk. But then he said, "I'm not throwing up because of your face. Don't overthink it." Thinking about the past, my hatred for James grew. He noticed my strange behavior and asked, "What's wrong, Anna?" I touched my smooth face, pretending to be upset. "I ran into a neighbor from my hometown today. They said my dad hurt his back while working on the farm. I want to go back and see him." James blurted, "If you go back, what about Yvette?" Realizing his words were inappropriate, he quickly added, "Even if you go, you won't be much help. Why don't I send some money to your dad instead? This year, I'm still busy with the graduating class, and school is starting early." I spoke firmly. "I must go back. If necessary, I'll take Yvette with me." James frowned in disapproval. "That's out of the question. She's just a baby. How can you take her on a crowded bus for such a long trip?" The atmosphere turned cold and tense. Neither of us spoke for a moment until Bianca interjected softly, "Why don't you leave it to me? During the day, I can help Mrs. Shun take care of the baby. After school, I'll hand her back to Mr. Shun." Before James could respond, I looked at Bianca, tears brimming in my eyes. "That would be wonderful. Bianca, how could I ever thank you?" Bianca smiled modestly. "Mr. Shun and Mrs. Shun have helped me so much with my studies in life. This is the least I can do." Though he tried to mask it by sternly telling me, "Come back as soon as you can. Bianca will be leaving for Washington, D.C. soon and has to prepare her documents and luggage. We shouldn't trouble her too much." I nodded, pretending to agree. But under the table, I secretly took out a small folding mirror. What I saw confirmed my suspicions. Bianca had slipped off her shoes and was using her bare foot to brush against James's leg. James's Adam's apple bobbed as his face turned red. He downed drink after drink, laughing nervously. "This wine is strong. Really goes to my head. What disgusting behavior." The next morning, I packed my suitcase early and waited until Bianca arrived before leaving. James personally bought my bus ticket and escorted me to the station. I waved goodbye as the bus departed. But as soon as the bus left the city, I got off at a nearby stop and walked back. My destination? A photo studio in the west of town. "Do you have a video camera?" I asked the shopkeeper. The shopkeeper smiled. "Young lady, are you planning to record a wedding?" I shook my head. "No, I'm planning to record something quite eye-opening." I needed solid evidence to expose these two adulterers and let their school and workplace know exactly what they had done. But to my frustration, the shopkeeper said, "Sorry, the video camera is rented out. It won't be back for another 2 or 3 days. Can you wait?" Wait. I hesitated. Waiting could risk losing everything. Suddenly, I remembered something from my previous life. Around this time, a man from Hong Kong approached me on the street and said I had the right look for acting. He told me he would be leaving town on August 22nd and invited me to audition at Dragonfly Hotel. Back then, I told James about it. He scoffed at me, saying, "You're just a middle school graduate working as a waitress. You're uneducated and plain. Do you think someone would actually offer you such an opportunity?" He convinced me the man was likely a scam artist trying to con me. I believed him and stayed home, thinking he cared about me. Years later, I saw that man on television, Luke Grant, a renowned director from Hong Kong who had launched numerous superstars. I realized I had missed my chance. This time, I wouldn't let that opportunity slip away. Catching them red-handed was important, but auditioning was more critical. I had to go. I took a bus to the hotel. From a distance, I saw a sleek black car parked outside the entrance. Several people emerged from the building, men and women, all dressed fashionably and carrying luggage. Leading them was a tall man in a white shirt and jeans, wearing sunglasses. He looked effortlessly sophisticated and charming. It was Luke Grant. I watched as he shook hands with a middle-aged man before turning to get into the car. Panicking, I shouted, "Director!" and rushed forward. But I wasn't careful and collided with a cart carrying fish guts, spilling the foul-smelling mess all over myself as I fell. Ignoring the stench and pain, I scrambled to my feet and limped toward Luke. "Director, please wait." Luke pinched his nose and stepped back, clearly repulsed. In awkward Mandarin, he said, "Who are you?" I dared not get too close. "Don't you remember? You approached me on the street and said I had the right look. You invited me here on the 22nd for an audition." Luke took off his sunglasses, revealing his striking, mixed-race features. He studied me for a moment before letting out a chuckle. "Ah, yes, I do recall, but I said the 21st. Not the 22nd. So, you missed your chance." I froze. Nearly 30 years had passed, and I remembered the audition but not the exact date. Luke continued coldly, "I despise people who can't keep appointments. It's very unprofessional. You may leave now." Desperate, I stepped forward and grabbed his arm. Tears streamed down my face as I pleaded, "I'm sorry, Director. Something urgent happened at home." And Luke yanked his arm away. Disgusted, "Leave immediately, or I'll call security." In sheer despair, I dropped to my knees. "Please, give me another chance. I beg you." Everyone around us was stunned. No one had expected me to humble myself so completely. But Luke remained unmoved. "Your behavior won't change anything," he said coldly. "Let me tell you something. The role I'm casting for is a local girl from the West City. She can play the piano, is bright and innocent, while your appearance fits the role. There's no light in your eyes. You seem repressed, like a woman who's lived decades without any hope. Your expression doesn't suit the character. Let's not waste each other's time. You may leave." I froze, stunned by his observation. Deep down, I couldn't deny he was right. A famous director indeed. His ability to discern such details was extraordinary. That moment, a chubby girl standing beside Luke leaned in and whispered in Cantonese, "Aaron, don't you think her demeanor and expressions remind you a little of Song Jun, the protagonist?" Luke snorted dismissively. "You must be joking. I've had award-winning actresses audition for Song Jun, and I wasn't satisfied. What makes you think she's any good?" The girl shrugged. "Sorry, just saying. The final decision is yours." Luke put on his sunglasses and walked around me, leaving directly. I felt all the strength drain from my body and collapsed onto the ground. Even with a second chance at life, it seemed the gods of fortune had no favor for me. But then Luke stopped in his tracks. He turned around, staring at me for what felt like an eternity, before finally saying, "Let her try Song Jun's emotional scene." The chubby girl introduced herself as Sun Fong, Luke's assistant. Luke handed me a 10-minute script, a short scene involving a middle-aged woman in the Republican era named Song Jun. She resents her husband, a military officer, for keeping a mistress. That was it. No further context or direction. He left all interpretation and performance up to me. I panicked. How could I act with no background? I had no formal training in acting. My mind raced through the dozens of family dramas I'd seen in my past life, focusing on unhappy married women. In the end, I decided not to imitate anyone. Instead, I'd play myself. I asked Sun Fong to help by playing my husband. She didn't need to speak. Just come in 10 minutes after I started. Luke sat in a chair, legs crossed, still wearing his sunglasses. His male assistant stood silently nearby, holding a camera. "Action," Luke said in Cantonese. Then, in Mandarin, he added, "Begin." My heart skipped a beat. Nervous but resolute, I began imagining James Shun visiting Bianca again, renting an apartment for her so they could live together openly. He had told me that if I didn't agree to the divorce, he'd sue me. My hand trembled as I picked up the hotel's landline phone, dialing repeatedly. Each time the call failed, I slammed the receiver down harder. Finally, I hurled the phone to the ground. I then grabbed a teacup, a chair, anything within reach, and smashed them one by one. I felt like a madwoman on the verge of collapse. I even picked up a shard of glass, pretending I might slit my wrist, wondering if my death would make him feel regret or sorrow. The sharp edge pressed against my skin, but I couldn't go through with it. Exhaling shakily, I swept up the shattered pieces, put the furniture back in place, and cleaned the room in silence. Then, I sat in a chair, staring at the door. When my husband entered, Sun Fong mimed removing her shoes. I didn't say a word. I didn't demand to know where he had been. I just stared at him as tears streamed uncontrollably down my face. Sun Fong looked visibly unsettled by my gaze. "Why are you staring at me like that?" she muttered under her breath, though I could tell she was rattled. I clenched my jaw, my teeth grinding as I continued to glare at her stand-in for James. Over the years, I had sacrificed so much for James. I had taken care of his greedy mother, feeding her, helping her use the toilet, tending to her every need until her death. I had raised Yvette for 27 years, preparing every meal, ensuring she had everything she needed. Even if I didn't deserve credit, I had endured hardship. How dare he discard me? This was my marriage, my family, my husband. I wouldn't let Bianca take it away. I stood, my voice steady though my body trembled. "Let's eat. Tonight. We're having noodles." The camera stopped rolling, and the audition ended. Luke sat in silence for a long moment before asking, "Miss Sue, have you been through emotional trauma? Or has someone ever tormented you?" Yes, for nearly 30 years. I had been ignored, betrayed, and deceived in a marriage full of lies. I shook my head and improvised. "No, I just imagined myself as Chao Chi Chow from the Golden Kang." She was a woman trapped in an oppressive marriage during the old days. Her life warped by repression. She became unhinged in the end. I drew inspiration from her for this scene. Luke studied me, his gaze lingering for a moment before he finally said, "Miss Sue, would you be interested in signing a contract with me?" My frozen body began to thaw. A faint warmth crept through me. Luke smiled. "Miss Sue, you're quite decisive. Are you okay with moving to Hong Kong?" I nodded. "No problem, but I need to borrow something." I pointed to the camera in his assistant's hands. Late at night, I rushed home with the camera, Luke following beside me, clearly displeased. "You must be crazy, sneaking out at this hour to record such filth? What on earth are you thinking?" I glanced at Luke, embarrassed, bowing repeatedly. "I'm really sorry to trouble you." Luke's handsome face showed irritation as he muttered, "You should just get a divorce. Why go through all this trouble?" I lowered my gaze. Divorce isn't that simple. I need them to carry the pain and shame of this forever. Unlocking the front door quietly, I stepped inside. The small courtyard housed two families, but the neighbors were conveniently away visiting their hometown. I approached my front door, noticing the house was dark but filled with the unmistakable sound of a bed creaking rhythmically. There were faint whispers, a woman's soft moans and a man's deep grunts. Luke leaned close to my ear and whispered sarcastically, "Your husband has impressive stamina." I shot him a glare, taking a deep breath before kicking the door open with all my strength. The sharp sound of the door crashing against the wall startled the occupants inside, and a woman let out a terrified scream. I reached for the light switch by the door, pulling it on. The room flooded with light, revealing two pale, naked bodies tangled together on the bed. Bianca looked like a frightened rabbit, clutching her chest and abdomen as she tried to hide behind James. James, on the other hand, stared at me wide-eyed, panic written all over his face. He hurriedly pulled a thin blanket over Bianca's exposed body, stammering, "Sage Chun Yen, aren't you supposed to be?" James's face was still flushed, his damp hair clinging to his forehead with sweat. Fumbling awkwardly, he scrambled to put on his pants. His gaze landed on Luke, and he demanded angrily, "Who are you?" Luke, exuding the composure of a seasoned director, held the camera steady, adjusting the angle to capture Bianca's face clearly. Realizing what was happening, James's face contorted with fury. "What is that in your hand? Is that a camera? Stop recording this instant." He grabbed a chair and hurled it at Luke. "Watch out!" I screamed. Luke instinctively raised his arm to block the blow, and then kicked James hard in the stomach. The force sent James staggering backward, crashing into the edge of the desk to keep from falling. Luke calmly closed the camera and tucked it securely into his bag. Then he strode over, grabbed James by the collar, and pinned him to the floor, twisting James's arm behind his back with practiced precision. He restrained him effortlessly. Clearly, he'd had training. James struggled violently, shouting at me, "Chunyan-su, who is this man? Are you cheating on me? How long has this been going on? When did it start?" Typical James. Even in the face of irrefutable evidence, he deflected blame and accused me instead. In our previous life, when I caught him and Bianca in a hotel, he'd acted the same way, never admitting fault, always attacking me instead. To him, I was a worthless wife. If I occasionally played a few rounds of mahjong with friends, I was gambling my life away. When I gave $2,000 to my brother after his car accident, I was accused of funneling endless money to my family. He claimed he'd endured me for decades and couldn't stand it anymore, even if it meant leaving with nothing in a divorce. Nothing. Ha! He had no money left. He'd sold our house and used up all our savings to pay off Bianca's debts. He even coached our daughter to lie, making her claim he'd racked up gambling debts so he could swindle $15,000 out of me. Suppressing the overwhelming urge to strangle him, I turned to Luke. Luke sighed dramatically, clearly fed up, and grabbed a random novel from the bookshelf, pulling up a chair. He sat in the doorway, crossing his legs as he flipped through the book. I folded my arms, glaring at James. "That man? I hired him to catch you in the act. Even 10 of you wouldn't be able to take him, so don't try anything stupid. And remember, this area is full of your school colleagues. Making a scene will ruin your reputation. And hers too," I said, jerking my chin toward Bianca, who was trembling on the bed. James was silent for a few minutes before sighing heavily, his face filled with feigned remorse. "Chunyan, this has nothing to do with Bianca. I had a few drinks with coworkers tonight, and when I got home, I saw Bianca and mistook her for you." I smiled coldly. "So, are you saying you raped Bianca?" Turning to Bianca, I asked, "Do you want me, as your teacher's wife, to take you to the police?" "Don't worry. We've got evidence recorded." Bianca's body trembled as she stammered, No, I won't go. Teacher James has been so kind to me. I don't blame him." I sneered. "Oh, so you're saying that James did rape you, but you've forgiven him? Funny, because from what I just saw, you didn't look like you were resisting. In fact, you seemed to be enjoying yourself." Luke couldn't help but chuckle softly, but James's face twisted with fury. "Chunyan, we're husband and wife. Whatever issues we have, we should talk about them privately. What good does it do for you to disgrace me like this? I'll admit my mistake. I'll even kneel and beg you. Just please, destroy the recording." Bianca started crying and swore tearfully. "Teacher's wife. I was wrong. I'll write a guarantee letter. I promise I'll never return to West City, and I'll never see Teacher James again." I laughed dryly. "Never see Teacher James again? How would your daughter, Yvette, feel about that?" Bianca's face instantly turned pale as her lips quivered. James, now humiliated and enraged, yelled, "Curse me all you want, but leave Yvette out of this. She's just an abandoned baby." I interrupted coldly. "An abandoned baby? Are you sure?" Calmly, I said, "May 10th, 1988. Just 3 months ago, I found her at our doorstep in a bamboo basket. Inside were a few cloth diapers and a note written in a deliberately shaky hand. The mother claimed her in-laws favored boys and had drowned her first 2 daughters. She couldn't bear to lose this one, so she left the baby here, saying that in this alley, Teacher James was the most educated, and Chunyan-su the most kind-hearted. She begged us to take in her child." I stared at James. "You brought the baby to the police, didn't you? And when you came back, you said they advised us to care for her temporarily in case the mother changed her mind. And yet, in my past life, I ended up raising her for 27 years. I walked over and picked up the baby from the bed. Bianca took a 2-month leave before the college entrance exams. What was she doing during that time? And why did you give her so much money? James, could it be because this child is hers?" I grabbed Bianca's arm. "Let's go. We'll get a blood test at the hospital right now." Bianca cried out in desperation, pulling back. "No, I won't go. Teacher James, save me." James yanked me away from Bianca. shouting, "Stop being crazy. If you don't want to raise the baby, just say so. Why slander Bianca?" I raised the baby high in my arms. If this baby isn't hers, I might as well drop her and let her die. Bianca lunged forward to snatch the baby from me. Well, that settled it. There was no need for a blood test. Her maternal instincts had said it all. Bianca, realizing her actions had betrayed her, slumped to the floor, clutching the baby tightly. She didn't say a word, only sobbed. Meanwhile, James crouched on the floor, burying his face in his hands. The room fell into a heavy silence. After a long pause, James finally spoke. "Chunyan, what do you want?" I took a deep breath and answered steadily. "First, a divorce. Second, Bianca's university acceptance letter." James exploded with anger. "That's impossible. Do you know how hard it is for a rural kid to get into a top university? Asking for her acceptance letter is like ruining her future. Chunyan-su, you're cruel." I looked at him coldly. No matter the life, I had never been James's priority. He would always protect Bianca, always stand by her side. Smiling bitterly, I gave him a thumbs up. "How noble of you. A true romantic hero." Turning to Bianca, I said, "Bianca, you're smart. Let's do some math. You're 19 now. You were 18 when you got pregnant with Yvette. Pregnancies don't happen with one try, do they? So, when you slept with teacher James, were you even an adult yet?" I turned to James with a sharp smile. "Teacher James, you're an educated man. Isn't it illegal to sleep with a student under 18? James's face filled with panic as he stammered, "That's nonsense. Bianca was already an adult when we were together. Believe what you want." I clapped my hands mockingly. "Of course, I believe you. Whatever you say. But what if your school leaders don't? What if the Education Bureau doesn't? Or Bianca's university professors?" That moment, Bianca collapsed to her knees with a loud thud, holding the baby in one arm. She raised a pair of scissors to her throat with the other, her face filled with desperation. "If I can't go to university," she sobbed, "I'd rather die here with my baby. Teacher's wife. If you want my life, take it now." Seeing the situation escalate, Luke stood up, but I waved at him to stay back. James, however, lunged forward, snatching the scissors from Bianca's hand and pulling her into a tight embrace. "Don't do anything stupid," he shouted, his voice trembling. Then, turning his furious glare to me, he snarled, "Chunyan-su, you're truly evil. Are you trying to drive her to her death?" I let out a cold laugh. If she really dares to kill herself. I admired his ability to feign decency, but unfortunately, he was too selfish. He wouldn't dare. I glanced at the quartz clock on the wall. It was already 1 a.m. I was exhausted, and this had dragged on long enough. Letting out a yawn, I walked toward the door. "I'll wake up the neighbors now," I said calmly. "Let them enjoy the show. After that, I'll report this to the police. Either James goes to prison for raping a student, or both of you lose your reputations, your jobs, and your futures. Your choice." James lunged to block my path. "Chunyan, we've been married for so many years. Do you really have to be this ruthless? Can't you leave any room for compromise?" I looked him directly in the eye. "When you defiled our marital bed with that little slut, did you leave any room for compromise?" James struggled to suppress his anger, his jaw tightening as he stared at me for what felt like an eternity. Finally, he spoke. "You want a divorce and Bianca's acceptance letter? Those two things. And you'll let this go?" I smiled and nodded. James turned to Bianca. "Go get your acceptance letter." Bianca shook her head frantically, her voice trembling. "No. University is everything to me." James walked over to her, coaxing her gently. "If you don't do this, Chunyan will destroy us both. You can retake the exam next year, or the year after that. As long as I'm here for you, what do you have to fear?" Tears streamed down Bianca's face as she hesitated, but eventually, she nodded. She rummaged through her bag, pulling out the acceptance letter, clutching it tightly as if her life depended on it. Reluctantly, she held it out, but I snatched it from her hands without hesitation. Taking a box of matches from my pocket, I struck one and set the letter alight right in front of her. Bianca screamed, reaching out to grab the burning paper, tears streaming down her face as she watched it turn to ash. I slapped her hard across the face. Don't look at me like that. Everyone has to pay for the sins they've committed. You may have lost your education, but at least you've gained a man who loves you wholeheartedly. I packed my belongings quickly and left the prison that had trapped me for so long. As I stepped over the threshold, I didn't look back. Tomorrow morning, we're finalizing the divorce. I said coldly, if you try to pull anything, I'll make sure the two of you spend the rest of your lives in hell. The divorce went smoothly. James and I came to an unspoken agreement not to notify our families right away, planning to announce it at a more appropriate time. However, James had one request. I've already paid the compensation, divorced you as you wanted, and destroyed the acceptance letter. Now I'm asking you to give me that tape. I refused outright. There was no way. That tape was my weapon, ensuring Bianca couldn't return to university and James couldn't smear my name. Whether or not to reveal it, and when, would depend entirely on my mood and their behavior. On the day of the divorce, I asked James, so, what's your plan? Are you going to marry Bianca? He scoffed coldly. What does that have to do with you? Then he sneered. I recognized that man who hit me that night. Luke Grant, the Hong Kong director who's been holding auditions here recently. I bet you've had your eye on him all along, scheming to climb the social ladder as his mistress. I hope you fly high and fall hard. The sooner you're abandoned, the better. I maintained my composure, and I wish you and Bianca a long and happy life together. Just watch your step. You wouldn't want to get struck by lightning. Before leaving, I added, Bianca may look innocent, but she's as cunning as they come. That night, while you fought tooth and nail to protect her, all she cared about was her university dreams. She didn't care if you were branded a rapist. Take good care of your little wife, James. She might run off with another man. James cursed me under his breath before storming off, not bothering to look back. I turned and walked in the opposite direction. Nearly 30 years of marriage and 2 lifetimes of pain finally ended in a clean break. From now on, we'd go our separate ways, never to cross paths again. A month later, Luke finished his business on the mainland and took me back to Hong Kong. Before we left, we had a meal at a Cantonese diner. He sipped red tea and read the newspaper while I, having finished my shrimp dumplings, focused on writing a letter. Luke glanced lazily at me. What are you writing? I replied without looking up. A letter to my cousin in West City, asking her to look after my parents when she has time. In truth, it was an anonymous report to the West City Education Bureau. I detailed James's immoral relationship with his student, stating that he was unfit to be a teacher. Letting them off so easily? No way. I smiled to myself, feeling immensely satisfied. Luke flipped a page of his newspaper and teased, You burned Bianca's acceptance letter, but she can always retake the exam next year. I thought your revenge would be more creative. Is this what you call a clean breakup? I dodged the question with a vague response. Every so-called clean breakup requires countless moments of gut-wrenching pain beforehand. Letting go of him is also letting go of myself. I didn't tell Luke how a poor marriage can drag a woman into despair, especially when burdened with a child and a useless husband. Nor did I mention that by the end of the year, James's mother would suffer a stroke and become paralyzed. With his younger brother far away in Yunnan, James, as the eldest son, would be saddled with the responsibility of her care. Of course, the clever and selfish Bianca would likely abandon even her daughter to escape that living hell. That's why I had to write the report. I needed to solidify James and Bianca's scandal, binding them to each other forever. I would never give James Shun or Bianca the chance to escape their debt to me. Not morally, emotionally, or otherwise. Bianca would never get into university. It was simple. Debts must be repaid. Luke folded his newspaper and adjusted his sunglasses. Miss Sue, you'll need a stage name. Your original name is a bit plain. Quickly asked, what do you think would work? Luke thought for a moment. Susie. Z as in springs and tension. It suits you. After moving to Hong Kong, my development unfolded both as I had expected and with some surprises. Luke's mainland project, a literary film called West City Affairs, was being produced with the aim of winning awards. The film's female lead was cast as Yin Yuan, the reigning queen of Hong Kong art house films. For the supporting role, one requiring a fluent West City dialect, they cast a local opera troupe actress, a beautiful woman with impeccable stage presence. I wasn't part of any casting decision. Luke was direct with me. The reason I decided to sign you initially was because I saw potential in your acting. But this industry is full of talented, beautiful women, many with far more experience. I don't have the patience to train you from scratch. And I can't just place you directly into a crew. He signed me to a temporary 6-month contract. During that time, he promised to arrange opportunities to observe or join 2 productions. No guarantees on roles or screen time. After 6 months, I would be evaluated. If I didn't meet his standards, there'd be no further collaboration. From there, everything would depend on my own efforts. After signing the contract, Luke, ever the busy man, flew to England. Sun Fang, his assistant, complained, "Iran is so cold-blooded. You're a young, pretty girl in a strange city, and he doesn't even care where you live or how you manage." I quickly defended him. Mr. Luke helped me tremendously during my divorce and gave me this opportunity. He's already my benefactor. I can't ask for more. Besides, you're also my great benefactor. Fang, when I was at my lowest, you gave me clean clothes. I'll never forget that kindness. Fang laughed, dimples appearing on her chubby cheeks. It was nothing, really, just a small favor. She was incredibly kind, helping me find a suitable apartment and giving me advice. Before she left, she mentioned that I'd be placed in a period drama production in November. She advised me to practice speaking with locals since my biggest challenge was language. After thanking her, I spent the night reflecting and devised a 6-month plan for myself. First, I had to solve my survival issues. My funds were limited, so I needed a job. I decided to work part-time at a fast food fried chicken shop. The daily wages would allow me to improve my communication skills and be flexible enough to respond quickly to any calls from production crews. Second, no matter how tight my budget, I set aside money for skincare products to maintain my appearance. Exercise was also non-negotiable. My face was my asset, and my physique needed to be impeccable. Lastly, I dedicated time to extensive reading. Looking good wasn't enough. If I couldn't understand scripts or lacked comprehension, I'd be useless as an actress. My days became tightly packed and exhausting, but for the first time, I felt fulfilled. In my past life, I'd planned my adoptive daughter's studies, taken her to lessons, cared for elderly relatives, and supported my husband. I had been a mother, a dutiful daughter-in-law, and a good wife, but I had never been Chun Yen-su. I had never been myself. Now, everything I was striving for was for me. Now, I was Zisu. November arrived quickly. Fang arranged for me to join the drama crew, where I played a small, insignificant role, a background character without even a single line. Still, I was able to experience the complexities of a production firsthand and observe how professional actors worked. As expected, I was overlooked, ridiculed, and treated dismissively as an unknown nobody. But it didn't bother me. If I couldn't stand my ground and earn my place, I might as well pack up and leave. During this time, news from West City trickled in. James Shun had been investigated. After the school term began, the Education Bureau received an anonymous report accusing James of an inappropriate relationship with Bianca. They immediately launched an internal investigation, which confirmed the allegations. At the same time, rumors about my divorce from James spread like wildfire. People began speculating that Yvette might be James and Bianca's daughter. Both of them denied it vehemently, claiming their relationship only started after the college entrance exams, after James and I were divorced and Bianca had graduated. Technically, this was true. Bianca was already an adult, and the Education Bureau couldn't dictate personal relationships. Still, the public backlash was severe. A teacher having a relationship with a former student created an irreparable scandal. James had once been poised to lead the senior grade level team, due to his success in guiding students to top universities. But this incident ruined his reputation. Jealous colleagues who had long resented him filed complaints, making his situation even worse. In the end, the Education Bureau and the school suspended James from all duties at the city's top school. Despite his efforts to pull strings and rally students to vouch for him, James barely managed to keep his job. He was transferred to a remote rural school, with little hope of returning to the provincial capital. For James, this punishment was worse than death. At least he had Bianca, though. Rumor had it they were already engaged. Good. They deserved to be tied together forever. 6 months passed in the blink of an eye. My temporary contract with Luke was up, and it was time for my evaluation. I woke early that morning, meticulously preparing myself. I organized my notes from the past 6 months, everything I'd learned, my observations, my reading journals. At noon, Fong called to inform me that Luke had just returned from a film shoot. He had a meeting at 2 p.m. and would be free for 20 minutes at 4 p.m. for coffee. I quickly gathered my things and followed Fong's directions to Luke's office. When I arrived, I saw Fong for the first time in weeks and ran up to give her a big hug. "Z, you've become even more beautiful," Fong said warmly, giving me a once-over. "And much more confident, too." Fong led me to Luke's office and said, "Aaron's in a meeting. He won't be out for a while. Why don't you sit here and wait? Tea or coffee?" I smiled and declined politely. "Nothing. Thank you. If I drink anything, I might get nervous and need the restroom." Fong chuckled and sat down with me for a chat. "Don't be nervous. You're already doing great. I've spoken to friends from the 3 productions you joined. They all said you're serious about learning and have a great personality." I lowered my voice and asked hesitantly, "What do you think Luke will think?" Fong grinned. "Shouldn't be a problem. The artists signed this year don't have your potential. Relax." As we spoke, the door opened, and in came a stunningly beautiful mixed-race girl, about 4 years old, with features that bore a resemblance to Luke. Following her was a woman in her 40s, holding a water bottle and a backpack. The little girl skipped around the room, looking for someone, and called out in a sweet voice, "Daddy? Where's Daddy?" I turned to Fong, wide-eyed. She leaned in and whispered, "That's Aaron's daughter, Joey. She's 4 this year. The woman with her is her nanny, Lonnie." I was even more shocked. "Luke has a child?" Fong shook her head and covered her mouth to speak quietly. "Her mother is British. She was deeply in love with Aaron, but marriage isn't in Aaron's vocabulary. They split 3 years ago. Now, she's married to a wealthy man and is living well." Hearing this unexpected gossip, I couldn't help but gasp. Nudging Fong with my elbow, I teased, "How dare you tell me something so personal about Luke?" Fong laughed heartily. "This isn't exactly private. Few years back, Aaron's love life was all over the tabloids. You just never paid attention." That moment, Joey ran up to me, resting her arms on my legs as she looked up with wide eyes. She was like a little porcelain doll, dressed in a lace dress with flawless, rosy skin. Her long, thick eyelashes framed her curious gaze. I couldn't resist leaning down to gently pat her head. "Who are you?" she asked sweetly in a mix of Cantonese and Mandarin. "Auntie, you're so pretty. Are you Daddy's girlfriend?" I froze, surprised that such a young child knew what girlfriend meant. Either she'd seen too much or heard too much. I was about to explain when Joey's expression suddenly changed. Pouting, she stood on her tiptoes and slapped me with her tiny hand. "I hate you. Bad woman." Her nanny, Lonnie, rushed over, crouching down to embrace the little girl. "Joey, you can't just hit people. Come on, let's go." Joey stuck out her tongue at me, grabbed Lonnie's hand, and walked away. Fong immediately leaned in to check my face. "Are you okay?" "Joey's spoiled rotten. She's Aaron's little princess, and her temper isn't great. Don't take it to heart." I forced a smile. "It's fine." As they reached the door, Joey suddenly ran back, climbing onto my lap. She excitedly played with the Mickey Mouse keychain on my bag. "I want this," she said, pointing at it. Fong looked at me helplessly. "Just give it to her." She reached out to remove the keychain, but I stopped her. Shaking my head, I leaned down to face Joey directly. "If you want something, you have to ask politely," I said gently. Joey blinked her big eyes and stretched her hand toward me. "Can I have it?" "No," I shook my head firmly. "You were very rude earlier, and that made me upset. I don't want to give it to you." Joey was clearly unaccustomed to being refused. Her face turned red with anger. "You're mean. I'll tell Daddy to make you leave. I want Mickey Mouse. Give it to me." I held her little arm, meeting her gaze steadily. Throwing a tantrum doesn't make you cute. Joey, if you keep acting like this, you won't get any gifts. Joey pouted, her voice trembling. I hate you. I just want to be mean to you. I stayed patient. First, I'm not your daddy's girlfriend. Second, when you misunderstand someone, shouldn't you apologize to them? Joey's tiny face was filled with confusion, as if the concept of apologizing was entirely foreign to her. Lonnie came over, clearly reluctant to make Joey apologize to someone like me. She tried to lead Joey away. Time for lunch. You didn't eat your vegetables earlier, and your daddy will be upset if he finds out. To everyone's surprise, Joey broke free from Lonnie's grip and leaned into me. If you're not daddy's girlfriend, I shouldn't have hit you. I'm sorry. She touched the Mickey Mouse keychain again. Can I have this now? I smiled. If you eat your vegetables properly, I'll reward you with it. Joey's face lit up, and she turned to Lonnie. I want to eat lunch. Right now. Lonnie sighed, pulling a lunchbox from her bag. She knelt to feed Joey, but Joey pointed at me. I want the pretty auntie to feed me. I placed the lunchbox on a nearby chair. You're already 4. Joey, you can feed yourself. Joey thought for a moment before picking up her child-sized fork and spearing a piece of broccoli. She ate while glancing up at me, as if testing my patience. I nodded gently, encouraging Joey to take bigger bites. Lonnie, clearly surprised, exclaimed, Wow, I've never seen Joey this obedient before. Mississippi, you're amazing. I smiled modestly. Not really. Just experience from raising kids before. Once Joey finished eating, I rewarded him with a Mickey Mouse keychain as promised, with a new deal that if he continued to eat his vegetables, I'd give him a Donald Duck one next time. Overjoyed, Joey hopped around excitedly and tugged at me to play games with him. After a while, he grew tired, and Lonnie prepared to take him home. But Joey began crying and throwing a tantrum, insisting on seeing his dad. I could tell Joey simply missed his father, and Fong seemed to notice too. She hesitated. But Aaron is in a meeting, and he has a script review after that. Who knows when he'll be done? If Joey barges in now, it'll definitely upset him. I thought for a moment before beckoning Joey over. Auntie will tell you a story. Okay. Joey, his little nose red from crying, sniffled. What story? I smiled and said, I know lots of stories. Cinderella, The Little Mermaid, Sun Wukong. Joey crawled into my lap and stretched out his arms for me to hold him. I hugged him close, just as I used to hold Yvette so many years ago, gently patting his arm while telling him a story. Joey instinctively placed his tiny hand on my chest, sucking his thumb as he stared at me with wide eyes. Slowly, he drifted off to sleep. Lonnie reached to take him, but Joey clung to me, crying again. It's fine, I said. I'll hold him. Time ticked by, and about 20 minutes later, the door opened. Luke walked in. It had been half a year since I'd last seen him. He looked thinner, his hair freshly cut, which made him appear even sharper and more handsome. Our eyes met briefly before he strode over, reaching out to take Joey from my arms. Joey, still half asleep, groggily clung to my neck and mumbled, Mommy, hug me. I froze and looked at Luke. His eyes turned icy, and he roughly pulled Joey away, handing him to Lonnie. Who allowed you to bring him to the office? He demanded harshly. Lonnie quickly apologized. I'm sorry, sir. It won't happen again. Once Lonnie left with Joey, Luke turned to me slowly, his expression cold. Zissou, what is the meaning of this? I could sense his sudden anger and guessed it was because Joey had called me Mommy. He must have misunderstood, thinking I'd influenced the child in some way. I rushed to explain. Just now. Luke cut me off. How dare you have designs on my daughter? Sensing the tension, Fong tried to intervene. Aaron, I was here the whole time. Z didn't say or do anything inappropriate to Joey. Shut up. Luke barked, pointing at Fong. Don't think I don't know what you're up to. Your temporary contract is about to expire, and you're trying to renew it, to stay in Hong Kong, to become a star. So now you're using my daughter. My nose stung with the threat of tears. I didn't. I swear. Luke's sharp gaze pierced through me. Then why did Joey call you Mommy? Out of all the people in this office, Why you? His voice dripped with disdain. I know exactly what kind of person you are. You knelt on the street for an audition. Later, I had people investigate, and sure enough, your ex-husband, James Shun, was ruined by an anonymous report. Now he's stuck in the countryside. Don't tell me that wasn't your doing. I saw you writing that letter with my own eyes when we left West City. Fong tried to reason with him. Aaron, what happened in her marriage is her business. It has nothing to do with today. You're overthinking this. Luke grew angrier. I said, shut up. Do you not understand? Turning to me, he said coldly, listen carefully. Disu, women like you, who'll do anything to climb the ladder, disgust me. I will never sign you. No entertainment company in Hong Kong will either. If you're so eager for fame, go act in adult films. While you're young, make as many as you can, because no one will care about your worn-out body in a few years. My fists clenched tightly, nails digging into my palms. I forced myself to hold back my tears. Don't you think you're going too far? Mr. Luke. He pointed at the door. Get out. It felt like a slap across the face. I wanted to explain further, but Luke reached for the phone and said coldly, Security, come to my office. I knew he wouldn't listen. His mind made up. Wiping my tears, I bowed deeply. You'll always be my benefactor, Mr. Luke. With that, I turned and left. At the door, I paused and said, spend more time with your daughter. Look at what she's become under your indulgence. It began to rain. The wind carried cold droplets, chilling me to the bone as I sat on a bench by the roadside. Cars and people rushed by, a blur against the vibrant city backdrop. My heart felt hollow. This city, so prosperous and full of dreams, held the cruelest of realities when those dreams shattered. 6 months ago, I had arrived here full of hope, only for it all to end like this. Suddenly, an umbrella opened over my head. Fong sat beside me, her face filled with concern. Z, are you okay? I couldn't hold back my tears any longer. I threw myself into Fong's arms and cried. Clutching her tightly, Fong gently patted my back. Don't take it personally. Aaron had a project he was really invested in that fell apart today, so he's in a terrible mood. And when it comes to anything about Joey, he's particularly sensitive. She's his everything. I choked out between sobs. But I really didn't mean to use Joey. I know. Fong soothed. It really was Aaron who overreacted. But you know his awful temper. He'll never apologize even if he realizes he's in the wrong. So, what are your plans now? Hearing her question, I already had my answer in my heart. Luke had completely turned against me. There was no way he would ever give me another chance. I don't know, I said, lowering my head and hugging myself. He said those things. The Hong Kong entertainment industry is probably closed to me now. Fong sighed deeply, unable to disagree. I forced a bitter smile, but tears kept falling. Thank you, Fong. You've always been so kind to me. I used to dream of one day succeeding and repaying you, but now it seems I'll never get that chance. Fong hugged me close. Don't say that. Fate brought us together, and there's no need for gratitude between us. I really admire your decisiveness and your clear sense of right and wrong. I believe no matter what field you pursue, you'll succeed. We talked for a while longer before she had to return to work. That night, I couldn't sleep at all. I had to rethink my path. In the days that followed, I continued visiting film sets, hoping for a chance to take even the smallest background role. But no one would hire me. It became clear to me that Luke meant what he said. He'd effectively blacklisted me. As rent deadlines approached and my savings dwindled, I returned to part-time jobs. Before, I'd worked with enthusiasm, fueled by a goal. But now, I felt drained. Everything seemed pointless. I even considered leaving Hong Kong. But the thought of returning home, defeated and empty-handed, was unbearable. I kept telling myself that Luke, a prominent director, was simply angry in the moment. Surely, he wouldn't waste his energy holding a grudge against someone as insignificant as me. If I waited a month or two, until his anger subsided and I was forgotten, maybe I could try looking for roles again. This thought gave me a sliver of hope, enough to push through my days. I continued exercising, reading, and working part-time, sticking to the routine I'd set for myself. Then, On the 10th day after Luke's outburst, Fong found me. Her face was lit with excitement as she reached out and said, "Z, Aaron wants to sign you for a long-term contract. Are you interested?" I froze, stunned. But didn't he say he hated me? Fong shrugged. Who knows? He changes his mind every day. Later, Fong explained. After Luke's anger had cooled, she found an opportunity to show him the notes I'd kept over the past 6 months. Luke had initially scoffed and ordered her to throw them away. Fong, however, wasn't having it. You brought her to Hong Kong and didn't see her for half a year. Then the moment you meet her, you berate her and kick her out without hearing her side. If you want the notes thrown out, do it yourself. I'm not your maid. Later, Fong admitted to sneaking a peek at Luke, who had been flipping through my notes. It wasn't just the notes that swayed him, though. Apparently, Joey had been pestering him non-stop, asking for the pretty auntie to come back and tell her more stories. One sunny afternoon, Luke called Fong and Lonnie into his office. He asked them to recount everything that had happened that day with Joey. After hearing them out, he fell silent for a long time before making his decision. Fong grinned as she asked me, "Aaron wants to sign you for 5 years. Are you interested?" I nodded so quickly it was like a little chick pecking at rice. Yes, of course. I'm interested. I officially signed a contract with Luke's entertainment company. The process wasn't easy, but it was worth it. I moved out of my cramped apartment. The company arranged for me to live in a much better space. I no longer had to share public facilities. I had my own bathroom. Shortly after signing, Fong called me with a request. "Joey misses you. She's been asking for you to play with her. Are you willing to visit?" I didn't hesitate for a second. Of course I'm willing. Fong drove me to Luke's villa. As soon as I got out of the car, Joey came running toward me, clinging to my leg. "Pretty auntie, did you bring me a gift?" I crouched down, ruffling her hair. "Of course. But tell me, have you been eating your vegetables?" Joey nodded earnestly, her voice sweet as honey. "Not only have I been eating vegetables, I drink milk every day too." Good girl. I pulled out a Donald Duck keychain from my bag. Joey's eyes sparkled as she grabbed it excitedly. "Wow, thank you, auntie." Looking around, I asked Lonnie softly, "Is Luke home?" Lonnie smiled. "He's in the study, probably working on a script." I spent the entire day playing with Joey, cooking for her, and watching over her as she napped. Originally, I had planned to leave afterward, but after much hesitation, I gathered my courage. I asked Lonnie to make some coffee, then carried it to the study and knocked on the door. A cold voice came from inside. "Come in." My heart pounded as I stepped inside, my palms sweaty. The faint scent of smoke and cologne greeted me. The study was large, with bookshelves filled to the brim with literary classics, popular novels, and stacks of vinyl records. Luke sat behind a desk, dressed casually with gold-rimmed glasses perched on his nose. His bangs lightly covered his eyebrows, giving him a scholarly, elegant appearance. I couldn't deny it. He was a strikingly handsome man, but his temper, absolutely foul. He was intently sketching storyboards on paper, his drawings vivid and lifelike. Without looking up, Luke spoke in a detached tone. "Still here." His words startled me back to reality. I wanted to step forward and hand him the coffee, but I hesitated, worried I might accidentally spill it and ruin his work. Luke finally looked up, smirking. "The same person who self-righteously lectured me the other day. Why are you suddenly acting like a timid old woman now?" I blinked in confusion. "When did I lecture you? How?" Luke tapped his desk with a finger, signaling me to set the coffee down. "Who slammed the door on her way out and told me to spend more time with my daughter?" I shook my head, smiling incredulously. So he considered that a lecture? I placed the coffee on his desk and stood a short distance away, conflicted. "Is there something else?" Luke took a sip of coffee and said nothing. I bowed deeply. "Thank you for giving me another chance." He waved dismissively. "Fong thinks you have potential. If you want to thank someone, thank her." That ended the conversation. He focused on his drawings while I stood awkwardly, unsure of what to do. "Say whatever you want now," he said, lighting a cigarette. His presence always made me nervous. gathering my courage. I hesitated. Fong mentioned that next month I might join a crime drama crew. It's a small part, but I feel I still lack experience. I'd like to take acting classes. Luke snorted coldly. What makes you think spending half a day with Joey means you can start making demands? I mustered more courage. This has nothing to do with Joey. Our contract states the company will provide training. Besides, you personally sign me. If I mess up in a role, it reflects poorly on you. And if I succeed, I'll start earning money for you sooner. Luke chuckled disdainfully. You're a long way from making me money. Fine. Get out. I was stunned. But, out, he said firmly, not looking at me again. Admittedly, I was intimidated by him. I left without another word, feeling both frustrated and defeated. Back at home, I exercised for over an hour to calm myself down. After a shower, I applied a face mask when Fong called. Z, great news. Aaron got you a spot in a TV acting training program. I was so stunned I couldn't respond immediately. You know how hard it is to get into that program, right? They only take in-house talent. Aaron negotiated for hours with the executives, even agreeing to cast one of their actors as the lead in his next movie. Still processing the news, I whispered. I asked him for this earlier today, but he turned me down. I thought he wouldn't bother. Fong laughed. He's all bark and no bite. Deep down, he feels bad about lashing out at you before, but he'd never admit it. Congratulations. Z. Tears welled up in my eyes. Thank you, Fong. I'll make the most of this opportunity. Soon, I joined the acting program as a transfer student. My peers were incredibly talented, including a few familiar names who would later become award-winning actors. The instructors were seasoned actors themselves, and their lessons were engaging and insightful. I could feel my understanding of acting deepening with each class. During the program, I not only learned a great deal but also expanded my network. I landed small roles in even a few commercials. One day, a prominent producer approached me with an offer for a supporting role in a major historical martial arts drama. The production had a stellar cast and crew. I was eager to accept but knew it wasn't my decision to make. I had to consult the company, and Luke, however, advised against it. TV dramas have long production cycles and operate completely differently from films. I don't recommend it. I understood his underlying meaning. Long shooting schedules would keep me away from Joey, who had grown increasingly attached to me. She refused to let Lonnie take her to preschool, insisting that I do it. Having never known her biological mother, she had started seeing me as a maternal figure. I often visited the Liu family villa, where I saw Luke more frequently. Occasionally, when he wasn't busy, he'd give me acting advice. These moments were rare and valuable, and I cherished them, though he often wore a stern expression. Over time, our relationship became less strained. On Christmas, Luke was on a break. Joey begged us to take her to an amusement park. Children have boundless energy. After just 10 minutes of recharging, they're ready to go again. By the time we returned home that evening, Joey was still full of energy, while Luke and I were utterly exhausted. Joey, however, insisted we play a game of eagle-catching chicks. I was the hen, and Joey clung to my clothes as we dodged Luke, the eagle. Daddy, catch me if you can. Joey giggled, her face flushed with joy and a sheen of sweat on her forehead. Luke pretended to be menacing. Here comes the eagle. I spread my arms protectively. Joey, run. But Luke lunged and tackled us both, pinning us to the soft carpet. Gotcha. He tickled Joey mercilessly, making her laugh uncontrollably as she rolled on the floor. Mommy, save me. She squealed. I froze. The word mommy hit me like a bolt of lightning. Memories of that day in the office flooded back. The day Joey's innocent slip had led to Luke's wrath. A sense of foreboding crept over me as I glanced at Luke. To my surprise, his face showed no trace of displeasure. He continued playing with Joey, even reaching out to tap my forehead lightly. This hen is useless, he teased. The eagle got all the chicks. Realizing what was happening, I joined in on the playfulness, pretending to wrest Joey away from Luke. The three of us laughed and played together until it grew late and Joey's bedtime arrived. I bathed Joey, told him a bedtime story, and stayed with him until he fell asleep before leaving his room. Downstairs, I saw Luke sitting on the rug in front of the fireplace, drinking red wine and reading a book. As usual, I planned to slip away quietly, but he called out to me, "Care for a drink?" I hesitated before walking over and sitting across from him. He poured me a glass. "Try this. It's from a friend's private collection." I took a sip, only to grimace. It was bitter and dry, not at all to my liking. Luke raised an eyebrow. "Don't like it?" I nodded honestly. "I guess I don't have the palate for fancy drinks. I'd rather have something simpler, like baijiu." Luke chuckled and shook his head. "Next time, I'll treat you to Mao Tai." The dim light of the single lamp on the first floor and the flickering glow of the fireplace cast shadows across his face, accentuating his sharp, handsome features. He was dressed casually in white loungewear, with only 2 buttons fastened on his shirt, revealing his toned chest. As he leaned forward slightly, his large frame seemed to loom over me. Nervous, I instinctively leaned back to create some distance. Luke laughed softly, reaching out to brush something from my hair. "You've got some glitter in your hair," he explained before settling back into his seat. My heart was racing, and the warmth from the fireplace made me feel stifled. Though I hadn't drunk much, I felt a little lightheaded. "Joey really likes you," Luke said, swirling the wine in his glass. "Since you've been around, he's been much more cheerful. He's also gotten rid of some bad habits and tantrums." "Thank you, Z." I waved a hand dismissively. "It's nothing. I really like Joey too." Luke raised his glass for a toast. "About what I said to you before, I went too far. I'm sorry." Feigning surprise, I pretended to clean my ears. "Oh, Fong told me you'd never apologize for anything. Did I hear that right?" Luke reached for the phone on the table. "Fong dared to badmouth me behind my back? I should dock her pay." Panicked, I grabbed his hand. No. If anyone deserves punishment, it's me." He smirked, his gaze dropping to my hand. Embarrassed, I quickly let go and clasped my hands behind my back, feeling the faint tension between us like sparks from a lit firework. Luke tucked a stray lock of hair behind my ear. "Over the past 6 months, I turned down 3 roles for you. All of those projects ended up being hits. Are you upset with me?" I stepped back slightly, masking my disappointment with a light-hearted smile. "You've been in this industry for so long. I trust you know what's best for me." Luke nodded, satisfied. "Good." I glanced at my watch. "I should get going." "It's late," he said casually. "It's not safe for you to go home alone. Why don't you stay here tonight?" I shook my head with a smile. "It's fine. I'll be home in no time." Not long after Christmas, Fong excitedly called to tell me the company had secured a fantastic opportunity for me. A supporting role in a period film written by the renowned screenwriter Liang Chaosheng. I knew this was Luke's doing. It was likely his way of compensating me for taking care of Joey. Before filming began, Luke went over the script with me in detail. "Don't stress about it," he said. "You're only the 3rd lead. The spotlight is on the female leads, so your scenes won't take more than a month. It won't interfere with your time with Joey." Before leaving for the set, I promised Joey I wouldn't be gone for long and that I'd return as soon as possible. The filming environment was relatively harmonious. The lead actress, a triple threat star with achievements in acting, music, and television, was down to earth and easy to work with. The male lead, Lin Yanxi, had just won the Best Newcomer award and had a bright future ahead of him. I learned a lot during the shoot and enjoyed the experience. However, one thing dampened my spirits. The second female lead, Sun Manny, seemed to have it out for me. In one scene where her character had to slap mine, she kept messing up, causing repeated takes. By the end of the day, my face was swollen. "Sorry, Z," Sun Manny said with feigned innocence, handing me an ice pack. "It's my first time acting, and I don't have much experience. Please don't be mad." Z, swallowing my anger, I forced a smile. "It's fine, as long as the final product looks good. I don't mind doing more takes." Sun Manny gave me a condescending glance but smiled sweetly. "That's the spirit." After she left, I turned to Fong and whispered, "What's her story? I know she made it to the top 10 in last year's Hong Kong Miss Pageant." Fong sighed as she touched up my makeup. "She's ruthless. Look, she left a handprint on your face." What a piece of work. She closed the dressing room door and lowered her voice. She latched onto a wealthy benefactor. Without him, she wouldn't even qualify as an extra with that wooden acting. She's probably jealous of you. Why? I'm not competing for her benefactor. Fong smirked knowingly. She's one of Aaron's many ex-girlfriends. Word got around when he traded favors to get you into the TV acting program. She thinks you're his new favorite and is taking it out on you. It's jealousy. Pure and simple. I finally understood. Fong had mentioned before that Luke was a notorious playboy. Now I saw the proof. His exes were everywhere. That afternoon, I only had one scene to shoot. Afterward, just as I was getting ready to leave, Sun Manny caused another stir. My diamond ring is missing, she exclaimed. Furious. It's a rare pink diamond, newly purchased. It must have been stolen by someone on set. The assistant director ordered the set locked down. No one was allowed to leave, and Sun Manny's assistants were tasked with searching everyone's bags. Although the director clearly didn't approve, he couldn't afford to offend Sun Manny's benefactor, who was also one of the investors, so he let her have her way. After a lengthy search, nothing was found, except the 3 people left unchecked: the male lead, the female lead, and me. I knew this was aimed at me. Sun Manny said with a smug smile, her arms crossed. You don't mind if we check your bag, do you? I knew instantly that my bag had been tampered with. My tone was icy as I replied, I do mind. I wasn't going to stay silent any longer. You have no right to search my belongings. Only the police can do that. Sun Manny rolled her eyes and sneered. So defensive. What are you hiding? She then gestured for her assistants to grab my bag, as well as Fong's. I couldn't let them touch my things, so I urgently turned to the director. Director Lee, are you just going to stand there and watch this happen? Director Lee pretended to fiddle with the camera, conveniently turning his back. There was a ripping sound as one of her assistants snatched my bag. Its contents, cosmetics, notebooks, spilled all over the floor. Among them was a small velvet jewelry box I had never seen before. Sun Manny shrieked, my diamond ring. She stormed over and, without hesitation, slapped me across the face. Caught red-handed. What do you have to say for yourself? Fong stepped in front of me, shielding me. Stop accusing her. That's not hers. Sun Manny laughed coldly. A country bumpkin from nowhere. Never seen nice jewelry. Couldn't help yourself. Huh. Fong lost her temper, grabbing Sun Manny by the collar. Watch your mouth. You. Immediately, Sun Manny's bodyguard stepped forward, ready to strike. Everyone stand down. I pulled Fong behind me and locked eyes with Sun Manny. Fine. Call the police. Let them check the fingerprints on the ring. That will clear everything up. A flash of panic flickered in her eyes, but she quickly recovered, scoffing. Calling the police over something so minor is a waste of their time. Her tone grew venomous. Zissou, kneel and apologize to me. Absolutely not. I said firmly. To clear my name, I'll make the call myself. Turning to Director Lee, I asked, can you assist me in contacting the police? The director sighed impatiently. Isn't this all a bit much? Just apologize to Manny, and we can move on. I've done nothing wrong. Why should I apologize? Director Lee's face darkened. Then you're wasting everyone's time. Hurry up and apologize. My hands trembled with anger, but just as I was about to retort, a calm male voice broke through the tension. I saw what happened. I turned to see the speaker. It was Lin Yanxi, the male lead of the film. He stood tall and composed, his hands casually in his pockets. An hour ago, one of Sun Manny's assistants snuck into Z's dressing room while she was filming. The set fell silent. Sun Manny turned on him, furious. What business is this of yours? Stay out of it. Leaning lazily against the wall, Lin Yanxi smirked. I couldn't help but intervene. You see, I hate injustice. That moment, the cinematographer walked briskly onto the set and whispered something to Director Lee. The director's demeanor shifted noticeably. He rose to his feet and said, Enough. Everyone calm down. There are security cameras on set. The footage will show exactly what happened. He turned to Sun Manny with a pointed look. Miss Sunday in the future. Please take better care of your belongings. Don't let them go missing so easily. The implication was clear, and everyone on set understood. Sun Manny's face turned bright red. She looked like she wanted to keep arguing, but Director Lee had lost patience. Do you want to film or not? If not, get out. Tears welled up in her eyes. You'll regret this, she spat before storming off. Relieved, I let out a breath I hadn't realized I was holding. The ordeal was over, and I had come out unscathed. When the assistant director whispered to the director earlier, it seemed someone influential had stepped in on my behalf. I couldn't help but smile. It had to be him. Lin Yinchi approached me. Thanks for earlier, I said sincerely. He waved it off. No need to thank me. It was the right thing to do. Why would you say that? I asked curiously. He smiled warmly. I graduated from the same acting program as you, just 2 years ahead. So, technically, I'm your senior. I extended my hand. Thank you, Senior Lin. He shook my hand firmly. Words aren't enough. How about letting me take you out for a meal? I agreed readily. Lin Yinchi still had scenes to shoot that night, so we planned to meet for dinner a few days later. As I left the set, I spotted Luke's car from a distance. I gave Fong a knowing look before quickly making my way over. I climbed into the passenger seat, smiling. I knew it was you. Luke glanced at me. Then his expression shifted when he saw the bruise on my cheek. When did this happen? Leaning closer, he lightly touched my face, his fingertips grazing the swollen skin. Earlier today. I muttered. That woman hits hard. Does it hurt? He asked softly, feigning annoyance. I rolled my eyes. All your fault. You've got some nerve asking me that. Luke raised an eyebrow. So you know now? Yes, I said, sitting up straighter. Fong told me Sun Manny has a powerful benefactor. Won't this cause trouble for you? Luke leaned back lazily in his seat. Her benefactor's name is Mr. Zhu. I've already spoken to him. Problem solved. Of course he had. Nothing ever seemed beyond Luke's control. I instantly understood. Luke glanced at me slyly and said, Just now, I saw you chatting and laughing with Lin Yinchi. What were you talking about? Without thinking, I blurted out. He mentioned he also attended the acting program. Technically, that makes him my senior. He's talented, good-looking, great acting skills, and a decent person. He even invited me to dinner. Luke's gaze darkened as he toyed with a strand of my hair, a smile playing on his lips. Are you planning to go? A sixth sense warned me that if I said yes, he'd be furious. No, I replied without hesitation. I'm just starting my career. I can't afford any rumors. He raised an eyebrow, his approval evident. Smart. Very smart. I looked at him and, feeling emboldened, asked. A producer once invited me to act in a romantic drama. They said those types of films sell well and could boost my visibility. Should I accept? Luke tilted my chin up with his index finger and said firmly, Absolutely not. Then he leaned in and kissed me. Startled, I instinctively pulled away but then, hesitantly, leaned back into the kiss. I ended up in a relationship with Luke. His approach in bed mirrored his personality, intense and unyielding. For 3 straight days, we didn't leave the bedroom. During the remaining filming, Luke visited the set whenever he could. Although our relationship wasn't officially announced, everyone on set seemed to take it for granted that we were a couple. Lin Yinchi stopped talking to me for a few days, but eventually, he came up to me, straightforward as ever. I was planning to pursue you, he admitted, but it seems the flower's already been claimed. Though he hesitated, he couldn't resist adding, Luke's talented and charismatic. A lot of actresses admire him. I thanked him for his concern and assured him I knew what I was doing. Thanks to Luke's influence, the script was revised, significantly increasing my screen time. By the time post-production was complete, Sun Manny's scenes had been entirely cut. I was now the undisputed second lead. When the film was promoted, a video of Sun Manny accusing me on set went viral, along with clips of her bad behavior. Soon, scandals about her personal life surfaced, including compromising photos of her in revealing outfits at parties. She was blacklisted, her career destroyed. Meanwhile, I emerged as the innocent victim, earning public sympathy and attention. I never heard of Sun Manny again. Some said she broke down under the public backlash, while others claimed her benefactor had abandoned her. The movie, my first as a secondary lead, premiered at the end of the year to widespread acclaim. My reputation soared, and I began receiving endorsements and offers for more film and TV roles. Journalists praised my acting, though some tabloids tried to dig up dirt, mostly gossip about my relationship with Luke. It was tiresome at times, but I knew that any publicity, good or bad, was still publicity. My relationship with Luke was steady. We often took Joey out to play, and sometimes, I felt like we were a real family. I even allowed myself to dream about walking down the aisle in a white wedding dress, with Luke placing a diamond ring on my finger. Whenever I shared these fantasies with Fong, she would roll her eyes in exasperation. "Women in love really have no IQ," she'd say bluntly. She never hesitated to give me her honest opinion. "Z, it's fine to enjoy the romance, but don't get emotionally invested. Luke's a charmer, but he's also a wanderer. He's kind to you now, but he's been kind to every woman he's dated. Don't give him your heart, or you'll end up with nothing." I laughed and scolded her. "Can't you just wish me well? Luke is sincere with me." By mid-year, I graduated from the acting program. Shortly after, I received incredible news. I had been nominated for Best Supporting Actress at the prestigious Golden Deer Awards, considered the highest honor in domestic cinema. I didn't dare hope for a win. I told myself to treat it as an opportunity to meet industry professionals, wear a stunning dress, and take beautiful photos. When the presenter announced my name, I was so stunned that I didn't react until Lin Yinchi nudged me with a smile. Only then did I realize I had won. Walking up to the stage felt like the longest journey of my life. When I accepted the cold, weighty trophy, I finally believed it was real. I never imagined I could be this lucky or receive such an honor. I thanked my team, my director, and, most of all, Luke. The applause and flowers felt like a dream, a blissful, surreal dream. After the ceremony, I eagerly called Luke, but his phone was off. Fong explained he was busy shooting a film out of town. Feeling a pang of disappointment, I called my parents next. When I first divorced Shinjin Cheng and moved to Hong Kong, they had been furious, accusing me of being reckless and immoral. They even threatened to fly to Hong Kong to drag me back. I told them I would never go back, no matter what. Over time, their anger subsided as I sent money home. When they saw my face on TV and in newspapers, they finally believed I had become a star. Now, when they learned I had won an award, they didn't try to hold me back anymore. Instead, they told me to take care of myself and not overwork. Everything was moving in the right direction. I was determined to appear happy. After the celebration party, I rushed home, thinking that if Luke was busy, I could at least celebrate with Joey. But as I arrived, I saw Luke's assistant's car parked outside. His assistant intercepted me, looking awkward. "Miss Joey is at her uncle's house," he explained, looking at the lit-up villa. I immediately understood. I told the assistant, "Don't tell Luke I was here." Still dressed in my evening gown and clutching a bottle of wine, I spent the entire night sitting in my car. At dawn, a stunning young woman emerged from the villa, her figure voluptuous, her features delicate and enticing. She exuded youth and allure. Luke's assistant drove her away. I hesitated, wrestled with my emotions, and raged inwardly. But eventually, I calmed down. An hour later, I adjusted my makeup, tidied my hair, and gracefully stepped out of the car. With the bottle of wine and my award in hand, I entered the villa. Luke was sitting at the dining table in a bathrobe, sipping coffee. The slightly open neckline revealed fresh scratches on his chest. "You're back," he greeted, arms outstretched. "Congratulations, my Best Supporting Actress." Smiling, I embraced him, the title Best Supporting Actress sounding painfully ironic. This was a moment I should have celebrated with him first. But I swallowed my tears and forced myself not to notice the lingering scent of perfume on him. "The crew had a party," he explained, "so I had to leave you behind for a bit." Luke's eyes roamed over me, filled with admiration. "You're stunning. Absolutely perfect. I watched the live broadcast last night. My Z looked incredible." We both knew what had transpired the night before, but neither of us mentioned it. Luke opened the wine and poured us each a glass. He playfully tapped my nose. With you shining like this, your admirers are piling up like mountains and seas. I raised my glass and quipped, not nearly as many as our director Luke's admirers. We drank in silence. Finally, Luke broke the tension. Z, I like you, he began. But I grew up in the UK, spent my youth in the US, and only came back to Hong Kong as an adult. My values are more liberal. I felt my heart sink as he continued, sipping his wine. What I mean is, while we're together, we can also date other people. A non-exclusive relationship. Can you accept that? I told Fong about it, and she exploded. I knew he was a player, but I didn't expect this. What a joke. Open relationship, my foot. I cried uncontrollably as Fong scolded him on my behalf. Keep going, I urged her. Say more for me. Fong handed me tissues and sighed. I warned you not to fall for him, but you didn't listen. Now you're hurt, aren't you? Worried about staining my gown with tears. I stretched my neck as I sobbed. Fong, amused by my pathetic appearance, eventually laughed. So, what's your plan? Are you going to accept his proposal? I grimaced. What choice do I have? Hands on her hips, Fong declared. Then find yourself a man too. You're the Golden Deer Award-winning Best Supporting Actress now. Hot property. There are plenty of handsome guys chasing after you. Get one and piss off that jerk Luke. But I shook my head. Fong glared at me, exasperated. You handled your ex-husband so decisively. What's with the hesitation now? I wiped away my tears and forced a bitter smile. Luke can have new girlfriends, but I can't. I still need him. My career and future are more important than love or dignity. To gain something, you must sacrifice something. That's the price I have to pay. I can only wait for him to end it with me. I can't be reckless or betray him. I can't risk it. Fong sighed deeply. Then what do you call this? Clear-headed self-destruction. I hugged her. Drink with me. Fong, ever dramatic, declared. We drink until we drop. Perhaps out of guilt, or as a form of compensation. Luke soon gifted me an expensive designer bag and secured numerous opportunities for me. I became busier than ever, primarily focusing on films while occasionally taking TV roles. My career progressed slowly but steadily. I earned a lot of money, bought a large house in Hong Kong, and brought my parents to live with me. Beyond acting, I ventured into music, releasing an album that received lukewarm feedback. Between projects, I allowed myself breaks, pursuing further education, traveling abroad. Joey remained a constant presence in my life. It was an unspoken agreement between Luke and me. While I had no formal title, I played the role of Joey's mother throughout her childhood. Interestingly, Joey rarely visited her father on set but was often glued to my side. Once, she even said to me, "My dad's such a jerk. Z, why don't you leave him?" I'd considered it, but I knew too well how cutthroat the entertainment industry could be, especially for a woman with no power, no connections, and no safety net. So, I stayed, continuing as Luke's fiancée. It was an arrangement that suited him. His open relationship existed in practice only for him. Whenever he tired of a girlfriend, I would step in as the official partner to handle the fallout. Our first 5-year contract came to an end. I renewed my second 5-year contract with Luke. During this second term, I remained focused on my goals. Joey was growing up, and I increased my workload. Besides acting in films and dramas, I started investing. I knew that after the millennium, the mainland's film and television industry would flourish, so I planned to shift the focus of my work there. While I was constantly on the move, Luke seemed to slow down. The most noticeable change was in his romantic life. He didn't have a new girlfriend for 2 whole years. His reputation and standing remained as high as ever, though whispers about the aging playboy began to surface. Luke tailored a script specifically for me, aiming to win awards. I was the lead, and Lin Yanxi, a celebrated actor, was my co-star. But when it came to the Golden Deer Awards, both of us lost. Ironically, Luke won Best Director for the same film. What was even more thrilling was that the film went on to win several international awards, increasing my visibility globally. During a press interview, a reporter asked Lin Yanxi and me what we'd like to say to the director. We joked, "Luke, You owe us another movie each. When reporters later asked Luke about this, he laughed. Z and Yinshi are like family to me. Of course, I'll make good on that promise. Time flew, and our second 5-year contract was nearing its end. Luke decided to cook a lavish dinner at home. He placed a bouquet of red roses, my favorite, at the center of the dining table. In the kitchen, Luke was busy cooking, while I leaned on the table, watching him move around. He was 12 years older than me, and time had etched faint lines at the corners of his eyes. Yet, I couldn't deny it. He looked more handsome with age. What are you staring at? He asked, bringing a dish of lobster to the table. Smiling. You, I replied, resting my chin on my hand, studying him. You're wearing a white shirt and jeans. That's exactly what you wore when we first met. Luke laughed. Yeah. That day I was about to leave West City when a little girl suddenly ran up to me, yelling, Luke, wait. She crashed into a water cart, ended up soaked and smelling awful, but still clung to my arm and wouldn't let go. I was so annoyed back then. But her bright, shiny eyes. I couldn't look away. And I guess I never have. I bit into a slice of lemon from my water. Ugh, so sour. Luke chuckled, pouring himself a glass of red wine and handing me juice. Joey called me a few days ago, he said. She said she saw you throwing up and had the assistant buy a pregnancy test. Are we going to have a little brother or sister for Joey? I grabbed his wine and took a large sip. That girl is way too nosy. No, I'm not pregnant. The bitter taste lingered as I swallowed. In truth, I had been pregnant, but I quietly handled it. Luke's eyes showed a flash of pain, as though they shimmered with tears. He placed a hand on my shoulder. His smile gentle. Funny, I never liked kids before, but now I think it'd be nice to have a livelier home. He changed the subject. Z, why don't we go to Iceland for a vacation? You've always wanted to see the northern lights. Right. I smiled and nodded. Sure. I'll have Fong check the schedule. Luke sighed, a hint of nostalgia in his voice. Fong's something else. She's gone independent these past couple of years and started her own entertainment company. Heard she signed some promising young talents. Yeah. I replied, casually eating. Deep down, I knew that tonight's dinner had another purpose. Luke wanted to renew our contract. With my current fame and market value, he didn't need to say it outright. I pretended not to notice. Z. Luke finally spoke, sitting across from me. Let's get straight to the point. Our contract is about to end. What are your plans? I put down my chopsticks. I've been so busy I forgot to tell you. I won't be renewing. I plan to sign with Fong's company. Luke's eyes dimmed, his expression briefly melancholic. You're at a stage where you can stand on your own. Do you still need to sign with a management company? I smiled softly. I owe Fong a lot. This is more about supporting her career than me needing representation. Fair enough, Luke said, taking a long sip of wine. He looked at me intently. You know, I really want to marry you. That's always been true. I reached out to touch the fiery red roses. Do you remember the night I won Best Supporting Actress? The stars were so beautiful that evening. I stayed up all night just watching them. Luke lowered his head. I couldn't see his expression, whether it was sadness, regret, or reluctance, but it didn't matter anymore. Luke, I said, standing. I'm leaving. As I reached the door, he called out, Z, you've always been a clear-headed woman. You've always known what you want. After so many years, he finally shows up. Come in and sit, I said, gesturing to the couch as I kept my guard up. Shin Jinqing entered, leading his daughter, Shin Yuqing. They sat across from me, a pair of bodyguards standing quietly by the door, vigilant for any sudden movements. What brings you here? I asked, forcing a polite smile. Shin Jinqing looked down, avoiding my eyes. His grip on his daughter tightened. Yuqing is a fan of yours. She really wanted your autograph. He nudged Shin Yuqing forward, but she hesitated, her head hanging low, eyes darting nervously toward the ground. In her thin frame and timid posture, I saw not just a child but a ghost from my past. Her left cheek bore 2 deep burn scars, reminders of a life neither of us spoke of aloud. I felt a pang of something between shock and resignation. Time had not been kind to either of them. Shin Jinqing, once a proud and confident man, now appeared a shadow of himself. His hair was cropped short, his glasses thick and clunky. He had gained weight. His demeanor marked by a clumsy deference that didn't match the image I remembered from years ago. As for Shin Yuqing, her presence stirred memories I'd rather forget. Her cruel betrayal in my previous life. Her complicity in ensuring my misery until my final moments. This time, I would ensure she had no opportunity to harm me or anyone I cared about. Yuqing. Shen Jincheng prodded gently. Go on. Say something to Ms. Su. She lifted her head slightly, her voice barely audible. I admire you very much, Ms. Su. I smiled, though it didn't reach my eyes. Thank you for your support. I hope you're doing well in school. Yuqing nodded timidly. My eyes flicked over to Jincheng. He seemed reluctant to meet my gaze, as if he knew his appearance here was inappropriate. Your autograph? I prompted, maintaining my polite tone. Yes, he said quickly, fumbling to pull out a small notebook and pen. She's been so excited about this. It would mean the world to her. I took the notebook, quickly scrawling my signature before handing it back. There you go. Yuqing accepted it with trembling hands, whispering a quiet thank you. I leaned back, my tone soft but unwavering. Was there anything else? Mr. Shun. His face twisted, as if he were wrestling with something he didn't want to say. Actually, I wanted to ask for your help. Here it is. What kind of help? I asked, though I already had an inkling. It's hard to explain, he stammered, his voice thick with hesitation. My situation hasn't been great these past few years. Yuqing, her medical bills. They've been. Stop, I said, holding up a hand. My smile disappeared. Mr. Shun, let's not waste each other's time. If you're asking for money, just say it. He froze, stunned. No, I didn't mean. Save it. I interrupted, my tone turning icy. You've had over a decade to figure out how to manage your life and your daughter's. It's not my responsibility. Yuqing clutched at her father's sleeve, her head hanging lower than ever. Dad, she whispered, a note of shame in her voice. Shen Jincheng looked utterly defeated. I'm sorry to bother you. We'll leave. Wait, I said, softening my tone slightly as I gestured for the bodyguards to step aside. Before you go, let me be clear about something. Don't come to me again. Not for money, not for help, not for anything. We are not family anymore. Do you understand? He nodded, his face pale. I understand. As they rose to leave, Shin Yuqing turned back briefly, her scarred face half hidden behind her hair. Thank you, Ms. Su. She whispered again before following her father out the door. The room fell silent once they were gone. I exhaled slowly, tension ebbing from my shoulders. Some ghosts from the past were better left buried. When I saw Shin Yuqing's wide, nervous eyes darting around the room, I couldn't help but sigh inwardly. Her forced politeness and carefully rehearsed words were painfully obvious. Hello, Aunt Su, she said timidly, her voice barely above a whisper. I'm Yuqing. I've watched so many of your dramas and movies. I really like you. I often think, if only you were my mom. Thank you for liking my work, I replied, handing her an orange. It was clear that someone had fed her those lines. I turned my gaze to Shan Jincheng, who was looking visibly uncomfortable. Mr. Shun, let's not beat around the bush. What brings you here today? Shan Jincheng's expression shifted, complex emotions flashing across his face. Miss Su, could I speak to you privately? No, I said curtly. He hesitated before locking his gaze on me, a mix of desperation and something else in his eyes. Chunyan, I've been reborn, just like you. His words hit me like a jolt. I turned to the bodyguard by the door. Take Shin Yuqing outside for a while, I instructed. I'll call if I need you. As soon as the door closed, I gestured for another guard, Xiao Zhao, to stay nearby. He had been with me for years and was someone I trusted completely. I picked up my cup of tea and took a slow sip. When did it happen? Last month, Shen Jincheng answered, his voice trembling. Tears welled in his eyes as he continued. I remember everything now. Chunyan, everything from both lives. I was so blind before. I hated you with every fiber of my being when you brought Lu Juanrong to catch me with Baihaji. I thought you were cruel, vindictive. But now I see it. I deserved it all. Every single thing. I should have died 1,000 times to atone for what I did to you. I averted my eyes to the window, watching the scenery outside. The past is the past. There's no point in bringing it up now. I said flatly. What's done is done. We divorced. We've both moved on. Let's leave it at that. I glanced at my watch. I have an appointment soon. So let's keep this brief. Chun Yen. Shun Jincheng suddenly dropped to his knees, shuffling forward on them to block my path. Even if you hate me, Yuqing was raised by you. You can't turn your back on her. I couldn't help but laugh coldly. Ah, there it is. The real reason you're here. Before coming to Xiqing, I'd already looked into Shun Jincheng and Baihaji's life after I left. First, they had what could be called a decent marriage. But the strain of reality soon set in. Baihaji was tasked with caring for Shun Jincheng's paralyzed mother, while also raising their daughter. Meanwhile, Shun Jincheng's career took a nosedive, leaving the family struggling financially. Their once passionate love turned into daily arguments. Baihaji, overwhelmed and bitter, started gambling to escape her frustrations, often leaving young Shun Yuqing with the elderly grandparents. One winter, while unsupervised, Yuqing fell and burned her face on a heater, leaving permanent scars. The incident only deepened the rift between the couple. In the end, Baihaji began an affair with an old high school friend. Shun Jincheng, humiliated and enraged, was now in the middle of a divorce. And now, here he was, standing in front of me, desperate. Well, spit it out, I said, masking my exhaustion with indifference. What do you want? Shun Jincheng steadied himself with the edge of the coffee table and rose to his feet. Chun Yen, look at you. You're successful, beautiful, wealthy. Can't you spare me 1 million yuan? I couldn't help but burst out laughing. 1 million? Are you serious? What makes you think I'd give you that? His back straightened as he glanced at the bodyguard in the room. Because back then, you burned Baihaji's university acceptance letter. What if your fans found out what you did? Do you think they'd still idolize you? I smiled, shaking my head. You think that would bother me? Go ahead. Tell the world. I'm not scared. His fists clenched, his anger boiling over as he pounded the coffee table. You sent that anonymous letter that destroyed my career. First, I thought it was some jealous colleague, but after investigating, I traced it back to S-City. It had to be you. You ruined me. I yawned, unimpressed. And yet here I am, perfectly fine. You're not afraid I'll go to the media? He asked, his voice trembling with rage. Go ahead, I said, leaning back on the sofa. I've been through worse scandals. If anything, people might applaud me for standing up to a cheating ex and his mistress. Who knows? I might even gain more fans. Shun Jincheng's face turned beet red, his chest heaving as he tried to compose himself. Then, almost pathetically, he slumped back down, his tone turning to one of pleading. Even if you hate me, Yuqing doesn't deserve this. She's disfigured. Chun Yen, how is she supposed to face the world? Please, lend me some money to pay for her surgery. At least give her a chance to live a normal life. I didn't hesitate. No. His composure cracked entirely. You heartless, he began. But then he stood abruptly and dashed toward the window. If you don't help me, I'll jump. Let's see how your image survives that. Xiao Zhao quickly intervened. Sir, calm down. Let's talk this through. But Shun Jincheng, it seemed, was ready to throw caution, and his dignity, to the wind. I have nothing more to say to a cold, selfish woman like you. Shun Jincheng spat. Su Chun Yen, just tell me, are you giving me the money or not? No, I said evenly, standing up slowly. You've truly sunk to a level that disgusts me. Shun Jincheng's face twisted with anger. He clenched his teeth, yanked open the window, and swung one leg over the ledge. For my daughter, I'll do whatever it takes. I let out a cold laugh. Are you sure Shen Yuqing is even your daughter? His body stiffened mid-motion. What do you mean? He asked, his voice trembling. I walked to my luggage, pulled out an old videotape, and tossed it onto the floor. This was originally meant for you. I said calmly. It means nothing to me now. Shen Jinqing's face grew pale. What? What are you talking about? I sighed, letting the weight of the truth settle in the room. Do you know why I treated Shen Yuqing like my own in the past life? It's because I couldn't have children myself. But seeing how much you doted on her. Of course, I had my doubts. The color drained completely from his face. What are you saying? Exactly what you think I'm saying, I said with a hint of pity in my voice. I suspected for years that Shen Yuqing wasn't my child but your illegitimate daughter with someone else. You intentionally left her at my doorstep for me to raise. He looked at me in disbelief, his legs nearly giving out beneath him. So, I took some of her hair and yours. I did a DNA test. I continued, my tone neutral. The results? No biological father-daughter relationship. Sorry to disappoint you. That's nonsense, he shouted, his face contorting with denial. I looked at him with a mix of pity and scorn. Her mother is undoubtedly Bai Haji. But you, well, you're not her father. If you don't believe me, you can have another test done yourself. Shen Jinqing staggered, leaning heavily against the wall for support. His eyes met mine briefly before he turned and walked out without another word. I shut the window he had opened. The cool spring breeze wafted into the room, carrying a chill that pierced to the bone. 2 weeks later, my time in Xiqing came to an end. Before boarding my flight, I picked up a newspaper. The front page was dominated by a gruesome story. A rural schoolteacher had caught his wife in bed with her lover and, in a fit of rage, killed them both. Blood had painted the room red, leaving only their young daughter kneeling in the aftermath, crying out for her parents, her cries blending into the air, unanswered and lost. How pitiful, I thought as I stared at the headline. I sighed, placing the paper aside. What are you thinking about? Dylan asked as he walked over to me, interrupting my thoughts. I leaned into him, a soft smile tugging at my lips. I was just thinking about how beautiful this spring is. It would be a shame to waste it. Once we land, we need to eat well, drink well, and have a lot of fun. He smiled back, wrapping an arm around me. Deal. I'll make sure you have the best time.